I rejected him. Not because he wasn't powerful. Not because he wasn't rich. But because I saw something in his eyes that made my chest tighten. Something cold. Something dangerous. And I knew in that moment, if I said yes to him, my life would never belong to me again. So I said no. And that was the worst decision I ever made. Because men like Han Jun-seo don't accept rejection. They destroy it. The royal stallion was dying, and Zara had exactly 3 minutes to save him. Her hands moved with surgical precision, the 4 needles sliding into the vein as palace staff stood frozen in the stable doorway, too terrified to breathe. The horse thrashed, his eyes rolling white with pain, but Zara didn't flinch. She'd handled worse in the wildlife reserves of Kenya. A spooked thoroughbred was nothing compared to a charging rhino. Hold him steady, she commanded the stable master in perfect Korean, her Kenyan accent wrapping around the words like velvet. The medication hit the horse's bloodstream, and within seconds, his breathing steadied. Zara stepped back, wiping sweat from her forehead with her arm, her dark skin glistening under the stable lights. He'll live. But you need to change his feed immediately. Someone's been giving him moldy grain. That's when she heard the slow clap. She turned to find a man leaning against the stable entrance, tall and devastating in an expensive suit that probably cost more than her entire veterinary degree. His eyes were dark, amused, and completely focused on her. Impressive, he said, walking forward with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no in his entire life. I'm Han Jun-seo. Zara peeled off her surgical gloves. I know who you are, Your Highness. Everyone knows who you are. He stopped a few feet away, surprised. Most people bowed. She just stood there, covered in horse sweat and hay, meeting his gaze like they were equals. You're Dr. Omondi, the veterinarian from Nairobi. Zara is fine. And yes, your family hired me to oversee the royal stables for the next 6 months. She picked up her medical bag. Now if you'll excuse me, I have 3 more horses to examine before dinner. She walked past him without waiting for a response. Behind her, she heard the stable master's horrified gasp. Apparently, no one walked away from Prince Han Jun-seo. But Zara Omondi wasn't no one. And she definitely wasn't impressed by a crown. If you want to know what happens when a powerful prince becomes obsessed with a woman who rejected him, subscribe now. Because this story is far from over. Over the next 2 weeks, Zara settled into a rhythm at the palace. She lived in the staff quarters, ate in the staff dining hall, and spent her days elbow-deep in the most pampered horses she'd ever seen. The work was good. The pay was incredible. And she was saving everyone to fund her wildlife conservation project back home. What she hadn't anticipated was the prince. He showed up everywhere. At the stables during her morning rounds. In the palace gardens when she took her lunch break. At the veterinary clinic when she was reviewing medical records. Always with that same amused smile, like she was a puzzle he was determined to solve. You ride? He asked one morning, appearing beside her as she examined a mare. Since I was 6, Zara replied, not looking up from the horse's hoof. There's a trail ride tomorrow. Join me. I'm working tomorrow. I'll clear it with your supervisor. Now she looked up. With respect, Your Highness, I don't mix business with pleasure. And even if I did, I'm not interested in riding with you. His smile faltered. Just for a second, but she saw it. Why not? Because you're my employer's son. Because I'm here to do a job, not socialize. And because I don't date people who think their title gives them access to whatever they want. She expected anger. Instead, he laughed. You think I'm asking you on a date? Aren't you? Maybe I just want to ride with someone who actually knows horses, instead of the usual crowd who can barely tell a saddle from a stirrup. Zara stood, wiping her hands on her work pants. Then ask your stable master. He's been working with horses for 30 years. I'm sure he'd be honored. She walked away, missing the way his jaw tightened and his eyes went cold. The next morning, Zara arrived at the stables to find her schedule had been changed. All her regular appointments had been reassigned to the junior veterinarian, and she'd been given the worst jobs, mucking out stalls, organizing tack rooms, inventory counts. The stable master looked apologetic. Orders from above, Dr. Omondi. From who? He didn't need to answer. They both knew. Zara gritted her teeth and got to work. If the prince thought manual labor would break her, he clearly didn't know who he was dealing with. She'd spent summers working in wildlife sanctuaries where air conditioning was a fantasy and running water was a luxury. A few dirty stables weren't going to make her quit. But it didn't stop there. Her staff meal privileges were suddenly under review. Her access to the palace library was restricted. The comfortable staff quarters she'd been assigned were switched to a smaller room near the kitchens, where the noise made sleep nearly impossible. "He's punishing you," said Minesio, one of the palace maids who'd become friendly with Zara. They were having tea in the servants' courtyard, away from listening ears. "For rejecting him." "That's ridiculous," Zara said, though she knew it wasn't. "He's a grown man, not a child." "He's a prince who's never been told no," Minesio corrected. "Especially not by a woman. Especially not in front of stable staff. You embarrassed him, Zara. And men like him don't forget that." Zara sipped her tea, frustration simmering in her chest. "So, what am I supposed to do? Apologize for having boundaries? Quit my job because His Royal Highness can't handle rejection?" "Neither," said a voice behind them. They turned to find Prince Han Junesio's younger sister, Princess Haewon, standing in the doorway. She was 19, studying international relations at university, and, according to palace gossip, the only person who could challenge her brother and survive. "Your Highness," Minesio gasped, starting to bow. "Please don't," Haewon said, sitting down at their table uninvited. "I'm not here officially. I'm here because my brother is being an ass and someone needs to tell him." Zara blinked. "I'm sorry. Don't be. He is." Haewon poured herself tea like they were old friends. "Junesio isn't a bad person. But he's been raised to believe the world revolves around him. And when you rejected him, you didn't just hurt his ego. You challenged his entire worldview." "That's not my problem," Zara said. "No, it's not. But it's becoming everyone else's problem. The staff are afraid to talk to you because they don't want to get caught in his crossfire. The stable master is stressed because he's getting contradictory orders. And you're being treated like a prisoner instead of a valued professional." Haewon met Zara's eyes. "My brother needs to be confronted. Publicly. And you're the only one who can do it. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to get intense." The opportunity came 3 days later at the annual Royal Equestrian Exhibition. The entire royal family attended, along with diplomats, nobles, and international guests. It was the biggest event of the season, and Zara had been specifically excluded from all planning despite being the head veterinarian. She showed up anyway. She wore her best professional outfit, a tailored navy suit that her mother had sent from Nairobi, her hair in elegant braids that framed her face. She walked into the exhibition grounds like she belonged there, because she did. She'd spent 2 months ensuring every horse in this competition was healthy and ready. She'd earned her place. Prince Han Junesio spotted her immediately. She watched his expression shift from surprise to anger to something else she couldn't quite read. He was seated in the royal box, surrounded by dignitaries, but his eyes tracked her movement across the grounds. The competition began. Riders performed dressage, show jumping, cross-country. It was beautiful and flawless until the final event, when one of the horses suddenly went lame mid-jump. The crowd gasped as the rider barely avoided being thrown. Zara didn't hesitate. She jumped the barrier and ran onto the course, ignoring the shocked security guards. She reached the horse, assessed the injury in seconds. "Muscle strain, left foreleg. I need a compression wrap and ice. Now." The stable master appeared beside her with the supplies. Together, they stabilized the horse while the crowd watched in silence. When they finished, Zara stood and found herself facing Prince Han Junesio, who'd left the royal box and walked onto the field. "Dr. Omondi," he said coldly. "You weren't authorized to be here." "A horse was injured," Zara replied, matching his tone. "I'm the veterinarian. Where else would I be?" "You were removed from this event." "By whom?" His jaw tightened. "By me." The crowd was watching now. Phones were out. Cameras rolling. Zara felt her anger crystallize into something sharp and clear. Your Highness, she said, her voice carrying across the silent grounds. With all due respect, I was hired to care for these animals, not to massage your ego. If you want to punish me for rejecting your advances, that's your prerogative. But don't do it at the expense of innocent horses who deserve proper medical care. She heard gasps from the crowd, saw the flash of shock on his face. But she wasn't done. I came to Korea to do a job I'm excellent at. I've saved 3 horses since arriving, improved the stable protocols, and trained your staff on emergency procedures. But apparently, that matters less than whether I'm willing to go on trail rides with you. She took a step closer, her voice dropping, but losing none of its intensity. I rejected you because I'm a professional with boundaries. If you can't respect that, then you don't deserve my respect. Crown or no crown. The silence was deafening. Prince Han Junesio stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. Zara stood there, her heart pounding, waiting for security to arrest her or escort her off the grounds or worse. Instead, Princess Haewon started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. And then others joined in. The stable master, some of the junior staff, even a few of the foreign diplomats. Zara didn't wait to see what would happen next. She walked off the field with her head high, expecting to pack her bags by nightfall. But the dismissal never came. Instead, at 7 that evening, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find Prince Han Junesio standing there alone, without guards or attendants. He looked different. Smaller somehow, despite his height. Tired. May I come in? He asked quietly. Zara considered saying no. But curiosity won. She stepped aside. He entered her small room, looking around at the modest space. The single bed. The desk covered in veterinary journals. The photos of her family in Kenya on the wall. I owe you an apology, he said, not meeting her eyes. Several, actually. I'm listening. He took a breath. You were right. About everything. I've been acting like a spoiled child because you bruised my ego. I convinced myself I was just being persistent, that you'd come around if I kept trying. But what I was really doing was abusing my power to punish you for having the audacity to tell me no. Zara crossed her arms. Why are you telling me this now? Because my sister showed me the video of you on the field today. He finally looked at her, and she saw something raw in his eyes. You weren't afraid of me. You've never been afraid of me. Everyone else in my life, they either worship me or fear me or want something from me. But you just see me as another person. And when I couldn't win you over, I tried to make you small so I could feel big again. That's a very self-aware apology, Zara said carefully. I've had 6 hours and 1 very brutal lecture from my sister to think about it. He managed a small smile. She's right, you know. I am an ass. Despite herself, Zara felt her anger soften. You are. But at least you can admit it. I want to make this right, he said. Your schedule, your quarters, your access to everything you need. It all gets restored tomorrow. And I'm issuing a formal apology to the staff for disrupting operations. That's a good start. And I want to ask you something. A real question, not an order disguised as one. Zara waited. Will you teach me? He asked. About the horses. About veterinary care. About doing work that actually matters instead of just cutting ribbons and attending galas. He looked vulnerable in a way she suspected was rare for him. I've spent my whole life being ornamental. I want to learn how to be useful. Zara studied him. This could be another game. Another way to get close to her. But the exhaustion in his eyes, the genuine humility in his voice, it felt real. Okay, she said finally. But we do this my way. You show up on time. You do the work, even the dirty work. And if I tell you to do something, you do it without question. I don't care if you're a prince. In my stable, you're just another student. For the first time, his smile was genuine. Deal. Over the next 6 weeks, Prince Han Junesio showed up at the stables every morning at 6 a.m. He mucked stalls. He learned to wrap injuries. He held horses steady while Zara performed examinations. He got kicked, bitten, and covered in mud. And he never complained once. Zara watched him transform. The entitled prince who'd tried to control her faded, replaced by someone who asked questions, listened to answers, and wasn't afraid to admit when he didn't know something. "Why did you become a veterinarian?" he asked one morning while they were treating a horse with colic. "Because when I was 10, poachers killed a baby elephant in front of me," Zara said, her hands never stopping their work. "I couldn't save her mother, but I saved her. And I realized that saving animals was the most important thing I could do with my life." He was quiet for a moment. "That's the first time you've shared something personal with me." "That's because it's the first time you asked instead of demanded." He smiled. "Fair point." They fell into a routine. Work in the mornings, lunch in the stable courtyard, where they talked about everything from Korean politics to Kenyan wildlife conservation. He told her about the pressure of being the crown prince, the expectations that crushed him. She told him about growing up in Nairobi, about her family's farm, about the conservation project she was funding. "How much more do you need?" he asked. "For the project?" "About 30 million won. But I'll get there. I just need to finish this contract and maybe pick up some consulting work." 2 days later, Zara received an email. An anonymous donation had been made to her conservation fund. Exactly 30 million won. She confronted him in the stables. "Did you donate to my project?" He didn't deny it. "You're saving endangered species. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes." It seemed like a good use of it. "I don't need your charity, Junesio." "It's not charity. It's an investment in work that matters." He stepped closer. "You taught me that. You taught me that having power means using it for something bigger than yourself." Zara felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't the arrogant prince who'd shown up at the stables 2 months ago. This was someone who'd listened, learned, changed. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." He hesitated. "Zara, can I ask you something?" "That depends on what it is. Would you have dinner with me?" Not as an order. Not as a prince asking his employee. Just as Junesio asking Zara. "And if you say no, I'll respect that. I'll keep showing up at the stables every morning, and we'll keep being friends, and I won't make it weird." Zara looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd been humble enough to admit when he was wrong. Who'd worked beside her in the mud without complaint. Who'd listened when she talked about her dreams and then helped make them real. "One dinner," she said. "But I'm paying for my half." He laughed. "I'm the crown prince of Korea. I think I can afford my half," she insisted. "Equal partners, remember?" "Equal partners," he agreed. "Though I reserve the right to argue about this later." That night, they had dinner at a small restaurant in Itaewon, far from the palace. No guards, no cameras, just 2 people sharing a meal. He asked about her life, her dreams, her fears. She asked about his childhood, his responsibilities, what he wanted beyond the crown. "I want to matter," he said. "Not because of my title, but because of what I do. You made me realize I've been wasting my life being decorative when I could be useful." "You matter already," Zara said. "You just needed to believe it." He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "A question, not a demand." She took it. "I know I don't deserve a second chance," he said quietly. "I know I hurt you. Used my power against you. Behaved like everything you accused me of being. But," Zara prompted, "but you make me want to be better. Not just for you, but for myself. And I was hoping maybe we could start over. As equals this time." Zara squeezed his hand. "I think we already have." 3 months later, Zara's contract was up. The royal stables were running better than ever. She'd trained the staff, updated all the protocols, and left comprehensive medical records for every horse. Her conservation project was fully funded and breaking ground in Kenya. It was time to go home. She stood in the stable one last time, saying goodbye to the horses, when Junesio found her. "You're really leaving," he said. "My work here is done. What if I asked you to stay?" Zara turned to him. "You know I can't. My project needs me. My family needs me. Kenya is my home." "I know." He pulled something from his pocket. An envelope. "This is a proposal. Not a marriage proposal," he added quickly when he saw her expression. "A job proposal. The Korean government wants to partner with your conservation project. Funding, resources, expertise. And they want you to lead it. 6 months in Kenya, 6 months here." splitting your time between both countries. Zara opened the envelope, scanning the official documents. The offer was generous. Almost too generous. "Did you arrange this?" she asked. "I suggested it. But the approval came from the Ministry of Environment. They've been looking for international conservation partnerships, and your project is exactly what they need. This is legitimate, Zara. Not me pulling strings to keep you here. 6 months in each place," she said slowly. "If you want it. No pressure. No obligations. Just an opportunity for your work to grow bigger than you could do alone." She looked at him. At this man who'd gone from her worst mistake to someone she couldn't imagine not knowing. Who'd learned humility, earned respect, became someone worth loving. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I ask." But she already knew her answer. Because some things were worth fighting for. Her conservation work. Her independence. And maybe, just maybe, the stubborn prince who'd learned that love wasn't about control. It was about respect. 2 weeks later, Zara returned to Korea. Not as an employee, but as a partner. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. And when Prince Han-jun Seo met her at the airport, she walked straight to him and kissed him in front of everyone. The cameras flashed. The headlines would be wild. But for once, she didn't care. Because she'd rejected a prince and he'd taken it personally. But instead of staying entitled and angry, he'd done something radical. He'd changed. He'd grown. He'd become someone worthy of her yes. And that made all the difference. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that like button and drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have given Prince Han-jun Seo a second chance? And what story should I tell next? Hit subscribe so you never miss another story, because we've got so many more coming your way. Until next time, remember, the right person won't need to control you to keep you. They'll become someone you choose to stay with.